We are Rogue Media Sports.
You haven't heard about the McCrispy yet? Well, then, you probably haven't heard the sweet silence after the first crispy bite either. Go try it for yourself to hear the best nut sound you've ever heard.
Hey, it's Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light.
On today's podcast, Record Store Day founder Carrie Colleton is joining us to discuss the April 20th RSD special releases.
Plus, we'll talk live with our audience, the Sound Up Pod Squad, and find out who still listens to vinyl. And some updates from the Beatles universe.
Oh, good. Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters. Get it on Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And it is another Doomsday podcast as we sit here on the Monday following another Cowboys loss. The Cowboys lose 35-31, fall to 2-3 on the season. It is so wonderful, and I know Frito Nation Productions is happy about this. Mark Frito Friedman having Ed Werder back in studio. This is just a different level. Ed, you've been Westwood One, all these other things all these other opportunities you have. I've run out already, but I would. It's wonderful to have you back in studio and part of Doomsday in person, and just welcome back. We're happy to have you, and I know a lot of people were asking me. I'm not just saying this. This is not sort of a show business moment. As I walked around the press box yesterday, the people in our business, and then even in the parking lot, even some people offered me some chicken wings yesterday. Guy from, some place down in East Texas. It wasn't Slidell. It was
irrelevant.
I think it was Linden.
Get to the point.
I don't know. No, I'll let you know it's irrelevant. It was down there in East Texas, but they said,
isn't that where Miranda Lambert is from?
Loving the Doomsday podcast. Loving it. Absolutely loving it. So we got a lot of folks that are listening.
I thought you were going to say they miss me.
Ed, happy to have you back, buddy.
Wondered where I was. I'm glad I haven't forgotten the route over here. It's been a little while. It's good to know Frito keeps the place, the establishment, well secured and locked, and I have to text him 3 or 4 times to get him to come to the door and let me in. But it is good to be in studio so that I can interrupt you and try and keep you on point and so forth. It's easier to do when I'm sitting right next to you, even though you don't like the fact that I'm kind of bouncing my leg over here because it's a nervous habit that I have.
Yeah, if people that have not been around Ed on a somewhat frequent basis like I am, although it has been kind of sad, I haven't seen you in a while. Ed has a lot of nervous little habits, tics. He bites his fingernails to death, or bites his fingers, and that it's so funny. You're very, very good on live TV, and I know you had training over the years, but again,
I've never been coached a day in my life.
You became
it's all natural.
Well, yeah, you did get some coaching, I believe, at some point. But what's funny to me is you have all these sort of nervous tics. You clear your throat a lot. You do all these things. You'd be like, "Oh God, don't do that, Ed. Don't do that." And then when the lights come on, like all of that disappears, and it's just like, "I'm Ed," and that's just. It's interesting that you're able to...
I'm like Rod Marinelli. When you present me with a challenge, I stand up and deliver against it.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't see him do that yesterday.
Speak sarcastic.
All right, Frito, as always, play the damn music. And there it is. The great tones of Ronnie Foss, who, by the way, does our theme song, and that's Ed. We might even get him at some point soon, although we'll have to pay for it.
I just want you to know, because we're going to talk about the anthem later. When I hear our anthem, which we just played, I like the fact that we both stand at attention as it plays. I just think that's the right thing to do as patriotic citizens and full-scale members of Frito Nation.
Speak for yourself. I knelt during that anthem from Ronnie Foss. I saw him live the other night. We were several of us were up at the Sundown at the Granada. Oh, it was good. But hey, we need to get to this. 35-31, Cowboys lose. A tough day in Cowboys land as we sit here Monday morning. Ed's had an opportunity overnight to talk to various sources. We've checked in with everybody. We've got reaction. We'll get to Jerry Jones. That's a statement that a lot of folks are talking to, basically his warning to any of his players who, quote, disrespect the flag. And we'll talk about a couple of players, what they did last night. A couple of these guys that were suspended it recently decided, hey, I hadn't played 4 games, but I think I'm back. And so
Demontre Moore only missed 2, but okay.
Well, but I'm just saying he has been suspended.
Yeah,
now,
you're right.
David Irving, 4 games, but this was his first time back. So we'll talk about all of that. But first, Ed, let's get into the nitty-gritty of what happened. This team falls to 2-3. Another game they had an unbelievable chance to win. For whatever reason, this Cowboys team, first of all, they never scored in the third quarter. They're horrible in the third quarter. I think they've scored like 7 points all season. Like, this is a horrific third quarter team. And
they should have won the game.
They should have absolutely won the game. Cowboys, late in the game, I mean, that's what we got to deal with first, because this is what everybody's talking about, Ed, and I know you late into the night on Twitter. I mean, some skirmishes, even Trey Wingo, even our good buddy Trey Wingo, who has been killing us to come on, but when we say, Trey, you want to come on? Oh, it's too late. I can't do it tonight.
I've never invited him, and I'm not sure I would after last night's exchange, by the way.
It was, come on, you guys have been good friends. You need to stay friends, but Cowboys get down there. Here's how bad it's become, Ed. We have a situation with this team that they have so little belief in the defense. And I know it's Aaron Rodgers on the other side, but they're so, hey, if it had been Jared Goff on the other side, I would have had the same thought. There's such a tiny belief in this team and in this defense that it's sitting there with a minute to go, and you're saying, wait, should Dak Prescott on that zone read, that beautiful play, up the gut? There's number 55, the linebacker, Ahmad Brooks, just biting. I'm going to bite on this fake, and then Dak just strolls into the end zone. The question out there last night for Jason Garrett from our old buddy Tim Calishaw, hey, Jason, should Dak maybe have thought about stopping at the 1 yard line? Ed, are they down?
No, look, that has happened in games before where a player has been aware of the time situation and gone down before he could have scored. But that was a situation that happened with his team already having the lead. It doesn't happen when you are behind in a game like they were. You can't assume you're going to get a touchdown. There's been all these people who say, well, I like my shot, 4 times from the 1. Well, just because you're on the 1 with the first down doesn't mean you get 4 shots from the 1. Like, have you ever heard of a guy fumbling the ball away? Have you heard of a penalty in the red zone? I think the Cowboys were once very synonymous with red zone false starts and other penalties. So that's a preposterous solution to the problem. And when I asked one of the offensive coaches about that question being asked, this person said, quote, "It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." So I'm a little surprised, quite honestly, that Jason Garrett decided to even answer the question, because that gives it a sense of legitimacy, which I don't think exists. I think it is the end of the game is all about how they strategically manage the game and its effect on the outcome. And here's an interesting stat, I think, that points out what we're talking about. The Cowboys now are the second team in NFL history to lose consecutive home games despite scoring at least 30 points in each. The 2012 Lions did the same thing, scoring 31 and 33 points in consecutive losses. The Lions' offensive coordinator at the time, Scott Linehan, who's now calling the plays and is under criticism with the Cowboys. I just think it is wholly wrong to be blaming the offense and Scott Linehan for the fact that the Cowboys lost a game in which they had another double-digit lead in the fourth quarter. I don't care who's on the other side, and I think they did everything they could within reason to minimize the amount of opportunities Aaron Rodgers had to come back. But, what's taking enough time off the clock? Who's to say he wouldn't have beat him with one play? You got to score with 4 seconds left and then kick the extra point?
Yeah.
Is that the only way this defense is safe? That's ridiculous.
No. But knowing how horrible this defense is, I hear all that you're saying, and to a certain degree, I agree with you, but I'll just say this, and this is where Aikman talked about this, and I was kind of with him. When you know you can't trust your defense, which is the case here, you go first down, and you got Zeke, he runs for 9 yards. There with about a minute 20 left, you take a shot at Dez in the end zone. It stops the clock, and that is That's a problem. I mean, that is in Aikman. I wrote this down because by then I was at the game, and then I raced home and was watching the game. I had sort of a strange schedule yesterday. Aikman says it's too early. Just ran the ball for 8 yards, and I get that with this defense and with the lack of belief in it. I get what you're saying. You got to punch it in. You can't be sitting there. Oh, we got to manage the clock. If you need a field goal to tie it or win it, yeah, that's how you do it. But if you need the touchdown, you got to get it in there at some point. I just thought with about a minute 20 left, taking the shot in the end zone, and then of course the clock stopping. First of all, you leave him with a timeout. You leave Aaron Rodgers with a timeout, and then you ended up leaving him a minute 13 on the clock. Okay. That is, in college, that's an eternity. In the NFL, against a decent defense, that should be tough to do. He made that look so easy, Ed. And I'll say this, when he had to scramble for 18 yards, did you see that look he had? That was the look of a man who said, we just won the game.
Because he knew now he's not setting up a field goal. Now he's taking shots at the end zone until there's 4 seconds left and they tie the game and win in overtime in all likelihood. I think it's fair to question, as I think Troy Aikman did during the broadcast, why they threw on 1st and 10 from the Green Bay 29 when Dak was nearly sacked and could have easily lost the ball. And then again on 2nd and 2, the fade for Dez from the Packers 11.
That's the one I'm really talking about.
Both of those plays stop the clock. So is it fair to question that? Yeah, it is. But you're trying to score. Like, is Scott Linehan, as he calls these plays, is he supposed to be down there thinking, Jesus, I can't call a play that might lead to a touchdown and give us the lead now? This is too soon.
No. I'm with you on that. It's not his responsibility. I think Garrett could step in at that point and say, run the damn ball. If he hears a play call that says, okay, we're going to throw a fade in the end zone, I do think Garrett can step in. I mean, he is allowed to do that.
Well, it is, as far as I know, within his authority. I'd have to check that with Jerry because Jason generally defers everything to Jerry of any consequence.
You and your sarcasm. Did you know it's National Sarcasm Month?
Beautiful. I should have been born this month. But I just think it's way too complicated when you're asking the guys who are calling the plays. They took 9 minutes off the clock, for God's sakes. What are they supposed to do? Like, is this defense really this inept? I mean, yes. I know Rodgers is great.
The answer to that question is yes. They are that inept.
Look, there's two things. If you're a good team and you're going to close out games and protect leads, you have to be able to do two things. You have to be able to run the football on offense when you want to and run clock, which they can clearly do. They've demonstrated an ability to do that since they've had Zeke Elliott and this offensive line. The other thing you need to be able to do is rush the passer on a consistent basis, and that is what the Cowboys fail to do in these situations nearly every time. I mean, right from the start, they give up back-to-back 14-yard plays, a 15-yard play, then Rodgers scramble. They'd stopped him on third down a high percentage of the time all day. And then they let Rodgers get out of the pocket because they have an undisciplined pass rush. Two guys miss potential tackles, and now it's his game to win. I mean, people calling for, Scott Linehan to be fired, it's just the most ridiculous overreaction that I've ever heard. It's too much to ask a guy to score the game-winning touchdown, but it's only going to be a game-winning touchdown if you score it in the last 4 seconds so the other guy doesn't sweep the field on you in 62 seconds and score a touchdown of his own.
Yeah, I just think there's a couple of guys in this league, Brady's one of them, and certainly Aaron Rodgers, that the fear, you even had the owner of the Cowboys saying, and everybody in the stadium had the same thought. I know, but you had him saying, well, I knew they were going to score the field goal.
Yeah, right.
But I thought we might have a chance.
I think there was a strong likelihood they were going to get the 3. He didn't expect him to get 7.
But you know what Rodgers said? Rodgers said, and I like listening to him last night because he had a good explanation for that final drive. He was talking about it. He's like, the very most important part of that 2-minute drill, which was basically almost like a 1-minute drill, but the most important part is that first pass. And they got 14 yards to Adams right away. And he said that gets the thing going. And that, of course, and then Martellus Bennett became a wrecking crew. They waited the second half to get him going. And then on that pass, did you hear what he said about Devontae Adams, that Adams kind of came back to the huddle and basically said, let's do it again. On that back shoulder throw,
over
and
Jordan
he said
Lewis.
Over Jordan Lewis. Jordan Lewis makes a beautiful play on the first one, breaks it up, and I liked Aaron Rodgers' explanation. He said that Devontae Adams gave him a look that basically said, if you'll throw a much better pass,
throw a better ball,
we'll go ahead and score on this. and they turned Jordan Lewis around, and they got it. And by the way, that set up a very entertaining. I mean, if the Cowboys may not make the playoffs this year. I mean, we may have to face that reality. I mean, they still have plenty of time to get back in this thing. But if every game could end on a chaotic play like that, we would at least have some entertainment value.
It would be good for the Doomsday podcast, what we're saying. And it's nice of the Cowboys, with now 2 weeks off, to allow all this, the histrionics and the debate about how they lost a game like this. And so my final point is going to be this.
We got a lot more time to fill. I hope the hell is in your
on this point.
Final point.
I think it's fair, and the expectation should be you have to consider who the quarterback is on the other sideline. And clearly they were very aware of that as they were calling the plays on this last drive, and especially toward the end as they were about to score. You have to be aware of that in a situational football context. And I think it's fair to say, hey, as well as they were running the ball at that point, then you keep running it until either the clock or the down and distance dictates that you throw the football. I think those are fair questions and second guesses. I think suggesting that Dak Prescott should have the awareness and the gall to lay down on the opponent 1 yard line with the Cowboys behind and the clock running and less than 2 minutes to go is just absurd, because the only way that would be worse to lose the game than the way they did would be for them to have first and goal at the 1 and fumble the football and lose the game that way when they gave up a touchdown they could have scored. That's my final point.
No, and you made.
I'm going to go back to shaking my leg, biting my nails, and breathing heavily.
I can't hear you anymore. I took off my headset. I think all is well. Yeah, by the way, Hanson, I've not heard it, but apparently he went after our pal Kalishaw pretty hard for asking that question. And what's funny is I don't even think Tim was asking that for himself. I think from what I read in his column, he sort of mentioned that in passing. He was talking about the running game or something, and maybe Kate wrote about it. So Tim might have gone in there asking that sort of on someone else's behalf.
I worked the beat with Tim Kalishaw for a number of years in the 90s, and he never did anything to benefit the team. He was only out for his own edification. So I'm sure that he asked that question because he thought it was going to be high in his column and his point of view, and then when he decided to go a different direction, he handed that down. That's the only way Tim would do something like that. Okay. Again, I'm being sarcastic in this month of sarcasm.
No, buddy, people get your sarcasm. Don't ever feel like you have to explain it. Now, here's something I'm not being sarcastic about for once in my life, Ed. This is something I'm excited about. It's weekly fantasy football, but not like the other guys. This is draft.com, Ed, where you play real live snake drafts with other people, just like in your season-long league. But
Barry Switzer called me a snake once. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
It's a draft that lasts for just 1 week, and there's no management. Just set it,
the best
forget
kind.
it.
No management.
Once you're done drafting, that's it. No trades.
That's what the Cowboys are doing.
No waiver wire. Draft.com even takes care of last-minute injuries for you. You would love this, Ed. You and whatever that Phil Yates that you used to talk to or used to be in the draft with, you wouldn't have to mess with him or do anything.
19-year-old TV son.
That's right, man who climbs on other people's backs and lets them do push-ups. And the best part, play for cold, hard cash. Draft.com starts for just $1, so there's a draft for everyone. No salary caps, playing a real-live snake draft. Ed, you know what a snake draft is? We won't get too far into this, but basically, you go, hey, we got 9 folks lined up here.
You're picking first, and you have back-to-back picks later on. Yes, I understand.
Come in and join us on draft.com today. Download the app anytime. Just search Draft in your app store and join a game in minutes, or play right from your computer on draft.com. For a limited time only, all new players get a draft entry into a draft when you make your first deposit, but you have to use our promo code DOOMS. That's DOOMS. That's right. Play a real money game for free just for using our promo code DOOMS on your first deposit on draft.com.
Did you say that one more time?
Just search draft.com, the app store, or go to draft.com and come play free with the promo code DOOMS. DOOMS.
That's a long testimonial. What do they pay for that?
Ed, I don't. That's
is that a business secret?
Not of your concern. That's right. That is the management here at Doomsday will let you know. Hey, draft.com, thank you. Love being partners with you. Ed got some other stuff coming up early, a little later. I am wearing some gorgeous shorts by someone that's now partnering with us. if that makes sense. And we will do
I'm
that.
still waiting for my Harry's razors.
I want to get on their way.
Will I be getting some free clothes also?
They're en route to you. I think I have them at the house. I've been meaning to bring those to you. And a couple other items, and we want to get to Jerry. We want to hear from Jerry, and we're going to react to Jerry. But a couple other items. Let's call this Doomsday Quick Hits. A couple of things that are on the top of my mind, and I know you got a couple of things you want to hit. Here's mine. Okay. Yeah, I don't mean to keep beating up on Kalishaw, but apparently it's not okay to finally break through in the running game in the fourth quarter. To me, that's when you want to get the thing rolling. Man, the guy ran for like 85 yards or like 100 yards.
Ezekiel Elliott?
Yeah, I'm talking about Zeke. He
116.
He got rolling in that fourth quarter. First the fourth quarter, he gets at 25 yards and he gets going there. Now here's my problem though with the running game. Let's go to the other side. That defense, which is just embarrassing, and you're having to basically ask players, hey, can you fall down at the 1 yard line to prevent our defense from looking horrible? Who is this guy from UTEP? Aaron Jones. Is that the young man's name? Aaron Jones.
Fifth-round pick.
Fifth-round pick. Hey, they're looking around. The Green Bay hasn't had a running back since like Dorsey Levens, and he wasn't even that great. I mean, it's been like 20 years since they've had a consistent running game. They used to bring people like off the scrap heap. Hey, James Starks, where are you, buddy? Come back. That's what they do for the running game usually in the playoffs. They literally go find somebody that's out of work, and they say, come in here and help our running game.
Well,
is that cool?
Their starting running back is a converted wide receiver. He played
Correct.
in the league as a receiver for several years before out of desperation, and given his body type out of Stanford, they made him their starting running back.
Yeah.
And that's another – can I make one more point? No, I'm going to make several more points.
I was making a good one, but
are you done?
You know I'm not done. I haven't finished. I'll just say this. Aaron Jones goes for 125 in a touchdown. I mean, just bouncing runs outside all over the Cowboys. This is a team now, Ed. There used to be, we're like, okay, we love this identity talk. What's your identity? Who's your identity? Well, first of all, it's not takeaways. You talk about sarcasm. Listen to Brad Sham do a game and sit up there, and everybody's like, oh, Brad's pumping sunshine. He is. He's a fan of the Cowboys. But my Lord, Brad's just like making fun of them for their lack of takeaways. So they can't get a takeaway. Now 300-yard rushers this season. 3 of them.
3 guys have outrushed Ezekiel Elliott in their head-to-head matchups this year. C.J. Anderson of the Broncos, Todd Gurley of the Rams, and now Aaron Jones of the Packers. And that's another point I want to make is, in this last drive that Aaron Rodgers masterminded and perfectly executed, going the distance in such a short space of time with only one timeout to win the game, keep in mind, Aaron Rodgers didn't have his starting left tackle, David Bakhtiari. He didn't have his starting running back, Ty Montgomery. And he didn't have his best wide receiver, Jordy Nelson. And he still beat the Cowboys on their own field in 62 seconds. That's how bad the Cowboys' defense is.
With one timeout that had to be burned after like a 2-yard run, if I'm correct in remembering how that all played out. Yeah, he had in the NFL, in the college, it's so possible. My gosh, give them 0 timeouts in 40 seconds. In a good college quarterback, here he goes because they stop it on first downs. You shouldn't be able, but a minute. This defense is an embarrassment. And at some point, by the way, this Rod Marinelli magic thing that we like to talk about. Now I get it; they're young in the secondary, but I mean,
they
at some point, he has to be held accountable.
Win a game on defense. And speaking of which, where's their first round pick when all of this is going on? Speaking of guys who are not in the Packers huddle,
was he active?
Where's Taco Charlton?
Was he active yesterday?
Well, you were at the game. I don't know. You tell me.
Again,
they didn't seem to talk about him an awful lot on television, so I'm assuming he wasn't active. I never saw him out there.
It was bad.
And you get this guy, you draft him in the first round to create a pass rush, and he's not even one of your best 8 defensive linemen? Are you kidding me? Like, when guys come off suspension, all of a sudden they go right to the front of the line ahead of Taco Charlton, who's done absolutely nothing for the Cowboys this year. And like we said, this is a bad defense. Listen to this stat, okay? You think the one I gave you before was great? I mean, I thought it was. You didn't say that. But listen to this. The teams in the NFL with the most home losses when scoring 30 points since 2010. The Cowboys have lost 10 times when scoring 30 points at home. That's twice as often as any other team in the NFL, including the Saints. Remarkable. Teams in the NFL that score 30 points at home win 89% of the time. The Cowboys' record, when they do that since 2010, is 15-10. That's a 66% winning percentage.
An enormous indictment of the defense, if I've ever heard one. I mean, that is, how do you come up with these things?
I do my research.
That's good. But, I mean, you used to have people help you with research. I'm just kind of wondering who you lean on now.
I think it would be unwise of me to reveal that person. When you tell everybody how much we're making for the spots like you just did with draft.com, then I'll tell everybody who is providing me the statistical information.
I'm going to provide some background material to folks later. I'm going to take a picture.
I'm just trying to create some incentive for you.
I'm going to take a picture of your left index finger. Just send that out.
I'm going to show you a finger. I might show you two.
That's the dangest thing I've ever seen. I know you will. Okay, so much. Okay, now here's one thing I want to do, though, Ed, and this is very important. I want you to look over here. I don't exactly always ask you to look at my pants, but now is a good time to do it. Bombfell, B-O-M-B. Ed, write this down. B-O-M-B-F-E-L-L, an easier way for men to get better clothes. So excited to be partnering with Bombfell. All you do is complete a simple questionnaire and are then matched one-on-one with a dedicated personal stylist. Mine was Jasmine. Okay, they made it so incredibly easy. I gave my measurements, which I wildly fluctuate. But right now, I'm sort of between.
She sent you some khaki shorts. Wow.
No, Ed, these are beautiful. Now, Ed, I need you to kind of work with me on this. These are not khaki, by the way. These are kind of a lighter version. You should have seen the gorgeous golf shirt that I was wearing yesterday. It's easier for men to get better clothes this way, fully personalized. Every piece has been handpicked by your very own stylist. You sign up. Give your measurements, set your budget limits. Mine, I'm very limited.
You never know.
Ed, get your stylist, put together your clothing picks, and send in a preview email, and then you can cancel or change anything you like. You have 7 days to try your shipment delivered. And by the way,
sounds like a dating service. Are you sure it's not a dating service?
It's a beautiful service. Please stop shaking your knee. Bombfell provides an option, by the way, for your partner, Ed, and I think they're talking about your loved one in your life. For Jill, if she wanted to sign you up and maybe get somebody so she doesn't have all the pressure with Ed, I like that. Ed, I don't like this. Here's how you do it.
I find myself wearing more casual clothes to work now, so this might be a good thing for me to subscribe to.
I think so. The golf shirt I had on, Frito got to see it yesterday. Lots of compliments. Horizontal, blue with a man with a surfboard. I mean, this is a gorgeous looking shirt. I think it's Johnny O is the brand, in fact, and I had a lot of comments in the press box yesterday.
Comments or compliments?
Compliments, comments, both of those. Now, here's how we do it. Bombfell, that's BOMBFELL.com/doomsday. And this is for $25 off your first purchase.
Wow,
Visit bombfell.com/doomsday, and that's BOMBFELL.com. Go to it, and you have to use this product. You have to see it, and here's what I'm going to do later.
They deliver it right to your house.
I'm going to Twitter out. Yeah, I'm going to tweet out. I'm going to tweet out a picture of these shorts. And, Ed, I just want you to describe, folks, how quality right now, how this looks, and I want you to tweet it out, too. And we're going to get you some stuff, too, Ed, as well. Give folks, you're a guy who knows good clothes. You're a big Travis Matthew guy. What do you think of this thread count I got over here?
Those are I'd put that on a pillowcase and sleep on it at night if I could.
Stop talking about my pants like that, Ed. Bombfell. Open and clothes.
Open and close.
There you go. And Bombfell, we are happy. My gosh, more and more people wanting to partner with the Doomsday Podcast, and we cannot sing your praises enough for that very thing, and appreciate you, everybody, wanting to be a part of it. And we love doing this. And Harry's has been with us in the past. They're coming right on back here in a couple of weeks. And Ed, I got a bunch of razors for you. And Tuck sent his to his dad. Justin Tuck sent his to his father.
So Justin Tuck already has some of these products, and I don't, and I've been with you at least 3 or 4 times longer.
And I've tried to tell you, even if it might not be true, that you are the highest paid man in my company. Okay, now here's what we need to talk about, though. I want everybody to listen. In fact, I want to thank our man Saad from over at ESPN. He's an old pal of ours, for sending us this audio, because not a lot of people have this or have heard this. And we got this. We're able to gather this here at Frito Nation Productions. I want you to listen to what Jerry Jones says after the game when asked about, the player, Cowboys knelt before the Cardinals game, and then they got back up, and during the National Anthem, they were all at attention, linking their arms. There they were. But Jerry Jones throws down a statement that is getting a ton of national attention today, some negative, some positive. And let's listen to what Jerry says about what he will do to his players if they do anything to disrespect the flag. Here's Jerry.
But I want to be real clear. It comes between the impression or the perception that we're not standing together supporting each other, or the perception that we're disrespecting the flag. We will not be, the perception that we're not together will be secondary to not respecting the flag. Respecting the flag is first. Or the perception of not respecting the flag.
There has been at least one other owner in the league that allegedly told players that they would throw their money and support behind their causes off the field if they feel passionately about this. Have you offered that up to your players?
I haven't given any and don't have communication publicly about what I'm doing with the players. But I have a long record of supporting players and Dallas Cowboy players. And so that has been multifaceted for almost 30 years. And so I will continue to support our players. What I will not support is not standing for the flag.
You had two defensive players raise their fist at the conclusion of the National Anthem. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I don't know anything. I don't know about that. But if there's anything that is disrespectful to the flag, then we will not play.
Jerry?
Okay. You understand? We will not. If we are disrespecting the flag, then we won't play.
Have you?
Period.
The players will play.
Period. I'm saying yes, of course. But we're going to respect the flag and not going to create the perception of it. And we have. I'm not aware and wouldn't know what you're talking about. I'm not aware of that. But if you say you saw it, then you saw it. But we as a team are very much on the page together. We've made our expression that we're together. I'm very supportive of the team. But under no circumstances will the Dallas Cowboys, I don't care what happens, under no circumstances will we, as an organization or as coaches, players, not support and stand and recognize and honor the flag.
Well, we have to assume, based on what Jerry Jones says there, that he knows he's not going to be challenged by his most prominent players, Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott and Des Bryant. He must have some sense that they will not disobey his command and put him in a situation where he's tested on how devout he is to this principle he expressed yesterday. And by the way, we should also mention that yesterday was a day where, just as a lot of the tension between the owners and the league office and the players seems to be diminishing over time on this issue of players protesting during the anthem, because, the NFLPA, some of the owners, the commissioners, some players got together last week and seemingly made some progress toward trying to reach a mutually beneficial outcome on how to handle this situation. But yesterday, the presidential administration led by Donald Trump and his vice president, Mike Pence, escalated the situation once again, seemingly provoking the NFL, probably for their own benefit. But Mike Pence, the former Indiana governor and avowed Colts fan, went to the Colts 49ers game. And he summarily departed. Some believe the whole thing was staged because he said later in a tweet that he and President Trump will not attend events in which they view the players' behavior as being disrespectful to the country and the flag and the anthem. And so he left. Most seem to think this is a publicity stunt. At the very least, I think he's fairly accused of stealing Peyton Manning's last great moment as a Colt with the attention that he took from that event, that ceremony, and put on this. At the same time, I think, and people say, well, he knew the 49ers were going to protest. They're the ones who started the whole thing with Colin Kaepernick last year. And Colin Kaepernick, many believe, has been blackballed out of the NFL because of that. I would suggest it's partly because of that, but also because he doesn't fit every system. He's a quarterback in decline. And so you only have to, if you're Colin Kaepernick, you only have to offend 32 guys and you find yourself without a job. And that's where he is. But
by the way, let me just interrupt you for 1 second on that Kaepernick point. I think, and I find some humor in this point, each quarterback that gets a tryout or gets signed creates another round of discussion. Like, how could this be happening? And the one I really buy into after having seen him here, and I like this guy personally, but as a player is, and you could say, well, this guy knows the offense better, and I get that whole argument. But, yeah, when you're bringing back Brandon Weeden or like a TJ Yates or some of these guys that are like barely hanging on to their careers, I see how the discussion fires back up.
Okay,
because what you say he's a declining player, he's still in his 20s, and he at one point was, 2 straight NFC title games? I mean,
he was a play away from winning a Super Bowl.
He was unbelievable at one point.
So was
Jim
RG3.
Harbaugh.
Is he playing?
Yeah, he wasn't. RG3 had a great rookie season, but he never reached Kaepernick's level. He never won at that level that Kaepernick won at. And I don't know that we totally know he's a declining player because he actually put up decent numbers in the short period of time he had last year. So I sort of get, when you start getting some of these dregs of the NFL back and you don't bring Kaepernick, I think it really does point to the fact people just don't want to mess with it.
Brandon Weeden throws the best ball Jerry Jones has ever seen. Why are you disparaging Brandon Weeden?
I'm sorry. The Weeden point. With that,
and he looks a little like Huck Finn, and that's a very all-American kind of
You think that's
portrait.
That some of these owners are like, give me Weeden.
Here's the thing. I believe that the NFL was delinquent in dealing with this. This is my personal opinion, and I get to give it because I'm an American and I have First Amendment rights too. So here's my opinion, okay? I think the NFL should have dealt with this last year. The NFL had one player at the time who was protesting, and they looked the other way. And I think they looked the other way because they feared a massive walkout by the rest of the league. And because they flinched, they now have a situation that's hopelessly out of control for them. But I think we are now seeing with what Jerry Jones said yesterday and what Stephen Ross, the Dolphins owner, said yesterday, which was he, for the first time, is saying he expects his players also to show respect and stand for the anthem. Look, if they're not protesting the anthem, then Colin Kaepernick and these other players should have said, well, wait a minute, we didn't realize that's how people were going to interpret this. We apologize. We're trying to bring attention to this other cause, but we'll do it in a different way now that we know so many people interpret it as being disrespectful to the flag and the anthem. They're doing it because it does inspire that reaction. That's the whole reason they're doing it. And so does Jerry Jones have the right to at some point say, this is not going to continue. I'm not going to tolerate it. It's affecting my business in a negative way. Yes, he does. Now, will he enforce it? That remains to be seen. But he absolutely has the right to say, you know what? You can protest. You're an American citizen, and you can use your First Amendment rights, and you can protest any other day of the week, any other hour of the day. But you cannot do it when you're wearing our uniform, and you're in our stadium, and you're on the clock. Who gets to protest like that on the job? I was once told at ESPN I couldn't wear a pink ribbon to show support for breast cancer survivors and people afflicted with breast cancer because, where does that ever end? It doesn't end. Then next week we'll have to wear something to support autism. I mean, but we're going to let these players do this? Why? Why do they have to do that? They don't have to do it.
Well, now here's what I would say, and I appreciate everything you said. I don't know that we can say all these players are doing this knowing that they're almost knowingly and trying to cause chaos and all this other stuff. I mean, I think some of them – now, yeah, of course, there's always going to be some hypocrites in the bunch that are doing this and then not out trying to help their communities and all. That's one thing Justin Tuck talked about. Where are you guys on Monday? Where are you guys on Tuesday? Some of you guys that are protesting, are you out giving back? But now to paint all of them as folks that are – choosing to protest, I think some of them are incredibly genuine in what they're protesting. And then I think people should know, by the way, that this is very close to your heart, anything involving police, because that's a big part of your family and that's a big part of your background.
Well, let me ask you this. How come the NFL tolerates these protests from these players during the national anthem and the flag ceremony, and yet they don't let the Dallas Cowboys wear a decal on their helmets to honor the 5 slain officers who were hunted with a high-volume weapon by a minority citizen last year. Why is that? Where's the? That's the most blatant hypocrisy in the whole thing. And I agree with you.
We could certainly find points like that.
I totally agree with you that players in the league do a lot of charitable work and good deeds by and far, way more than probably any other segment in America. That's totally true. And I try to give them all the credit I can for that.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I don't think what they're doing and the way they're doing it is appropriate.
Yeah. No, I hear you on that. I would say that those horrible incidents, and I'm with you. I mean, there's so many great policemen out there. But is there police brutality that exists and it happens?
Did the NFL players just celebrate what the police in Las Vegas did?
No.
Last weekend when how many people were killed? 58 people? They identified where that sniper was and got to his room in 11 minutes to stop the killing? Did anybody acknowledge that in the NFL?
I would hope that in those moments of silence and whatever they did to honor the victims, that the first responders were in people's thoughts. But I don't know. You're right. I don't know if the NFL did anything official.
Why do we have to?
Well, let me just say this.
Wonder there?
No, I know.
Why
but
not just express it?
Let me finish one thing. I'm not certain that Colin Kaepernick, when he started all this, knew exactly what obviously was going to come of this. I'm still shocked, by the way, SI did that cover, and they didn't put the one guy who started, all of this. But now, I think there were some horrible incidents of police brutality in this country.
Yes, there have been.
Yeah. But I'm saying, I think I'm not going to totally question his motives. I mean, I think
he wore pig socks.
Okay, again, we're talking about in
he
practice.
He wore a T-shirt in Miami with Fidel Castro on it.
I think those are very inappropriate. What it does is mitigates the impact he had. But I'm just saying, does he have the right to do what he did? Yes. To respond to your point, do owners then have the right to not bring him onto their team? Yes, we're seeing it. And honestly, all the protests in the world or all the people getting mad aren't going to force them to go out and sign him. You saw it with Baltimore. You know what Baltimore did is Steven Seagal, the owner, the guy I used to work for. Bisciotti. Yeah, I think he kind of looks like Steven Seagal. He basically, was like, hey, we're gonna have some neighborhood conversations, and we're gonna bring Ray Lewis in. He's gonna kind of talk to some folks and see how we think about this. And that was a sham. I mean, first of all, who does Bisciotti in his neighborhood? You think Bisciotti's just say, hey, I'm going to kind of be a man of the people and go go around Baltimore and visit with folks?
I assume they were talking to their sponsors and the big money that comes into the team and the suite holders and
that's
people
kind of
who invest in the franchise.
That's almost kind of a sham, though. Hey, look, we're kind of looking into this Kaepernick thing, and I think that they were sort of revealed to be sort of fraudulent in their whole approach to that. And then sometimes Ray Lewis will show up, and it's like, where was Ray recently? Did he show up with Baltimore somewhere? Was it over in
He was
London?
overseas in London.
And Ray will kind of
and he was on 2 knees, and he explained that he was praying, not protesting.
Okay, but back to Jerry. I mean, and Ed, I think it's all a good discussion, and you're very passionate about this, and I think that's good. Let me just say this on Jerry's part. Here's what I think Jerry's doing. It's kind of like he understood that, and we talked about this in that before that Cardinals game, that everybody was in a tough spot because it's like if you don't do anything, there's going to be a lot of people who look at you. Okay, it's America's team. You're on this huge stage, and you guys didn't do anything. Well, Jerry found a compromise. I even think you at the time said it was genius. Now, here's what Jerry's doing now. Jerry's basically saying to his players, I stood next to you. I gave you a way you could lodge whatever protest or whatever we wanted to say, a statement of unity.
They had no choice. I'll give them that. They had no choice. Once President Trump called them SOBs and said they should be fired, then I think the players and the owners had no choice.
But now what's funny is this is a sort of a pro quid pro type deal that Jerry's done. He's now saying, I came up with this way for you to do it, but now you better the hell not sit down there and do anything to this flag. Now, here's the discussion that nobody's really having today. What then becomes disrespecting the flag? if those two players we talked about, DeMontre Moore and David Irving, okay, welcome back, Mr. Irving. You did a nice job at nose tackle. I mean, they moved him right inside. Let's put him over Lindsley and let him just work him over.
So two guys who are coming off suspensions who were not there for their team when their season began.
One guy missed 2 games, you're right, and then Irving misses 4 games and he came back.
They're the ones who are going to take a stand on morality.
No, I don't. I'll just say this. I don't think. No, we don't know exactly. Okay, so they basically
held their fists in the air.
Okay, I don't think being suspended for whatever they were precludes them from making some statement. Now, you can not like their statement, but I think whatever, some kind of drug suspension. Are you saying that you would? If
I'm saying
Des
if
Bryant, let me just ask you this:
if I've just been suspended from ESPN and I come back and one guy is going to lodge a protest in public, it's not going to be me. That's what I'm saying.
Well, what's Jerry going to do, though? He's saying, hey, if you disrespect the flag, is that disrespecting the flag? What they did, then they stood there during the anthem, and we're fine. They did their thing. And I say, fine, whatever you want to say. They were at attention, and they were there. The anthem ends, and they throw the arms up in the air. I'm acting like they're at a concert or something. No, they put their fist up in the air. Now, that's a strong thing that takes us back to the 1968 Olympics in the whole history of civil rights. That is an enormous moment in our country. That's what they chose to do. Ed, is that disrespecting the flag? What's Jerry going to do today? Is he going to go to them because it was after the anthem? I mean, again, there's so much gray area. We would like things in life sometimes to be black and white. I mean, that church where Frito goes, they really like to see things in a little more black and white fashion. But there is some gray in this area.
Well, Jerry did that on purpose. I mean, he gets to interpret what's disrespectful to the flag. It's what's disrespectful to the flag, in my opinion, as owner of the Cowboys. So what
if Zeke took a knee during the anthem? What is Jerry after Jerry makes this statement, and next week, by God, let's say that the court in New Orleans
what if
says
Zeke Elliott
gets to play for a little
What if Zeke Elliott does what LaShawn
2 weeks
McCoy
from
did,
now?
which was just kind of continue his warm-up while the anthem is going on? Is that disrespectful from Jerry's point of view?
I think
I would assume it is.
I think if it was a star player, Jerry would find a way to be like, he just didn't. He didn't hear it.
I didn't know that.
He didn't hear the trumpet.
It's under review.
We're looking at that. I mean, if it were the way he's playing right now they're not going to cut Taco. They got to wait for Taco. But let's think about somebody back there that's just kind of hanging on right now. A Jeff Heath of the world. They might send old Jeff packing right now. If Jeff, by the way, he might be the last person out there for Rockwall Heath or wherever he played. I don't really see Jeff being a huge protest guy. I don't know. I mean, maybe he is. But it does set up an interesting thing that Jerry has thrown down this gauntlet.
We now have to watch the anthem again the next time the Cowboys play, right? Because somebody could be in violation of Jerry's edict.
We will have to watch it. In fact, I noticed ESPN having to basically say, according to the Dallas Morning News, so-and-so, these two players had their arms in the air. So it's like, that's a scoop now. I saw somebody down there doing that, and other people didn't see it. That's the NFL. That's the NFL we live in at that point. And this team lost. 35-31. They now have an off week. I think we need to do a special. We used to do this on radio, and it was a highly rated type thing. And obviously, they lost their minds, and they tried to get rid of Frito and me. And we certainly will. We'll get the last laugh on this. The bye-week investigation. Okay, that's what we call that. The bye-week investigation. We will undertake that next week. But I'm very pleased. Ed, one more thing I want to do is draft.com. Now, this is the snake draft. You talked about, who called you a snake once? Was it Switzer?
Barry Switzer.
And what was the context on that? You don't have to get way too far into it. What did you do to make him think that?
I did a Q&A for National Magazine on a freelance basis with him, and he thought I used something in print that he did not intend to be used in print. And so he castigated me in front of several colleagues on the Cowboys beat, and I had to then inform him that I could no longer appear on his television show. Because it would appear that I was intimidated by him and my questions were no longer forthright and
I like it when you...
And so I said, so then he begged me to do the TV show and said I could ask him whatever I wanted to. So
It's a draft, by the way. This draft.com lasts for just 1 week. There's no management, just like you like it, Ed. Once you've done drafting, that's it. No trades, no waiver wire. Draft.com even takes care of last-minute injuries for you. And the best part, play for a whole cold hard cash. Drafts start for just $1, so there's a draft for everyone. Come and join me on draft.com today. Download the app anytime. Just search draft.com in your app store. Join a game in minutes or play right from your computer on draft.com.
can you do that while at work then?
Yeah, no, you can totally do that at work.
Good.
Yep. For a limited time only, all new players get a free entry into a draft when you make your first deposit, Ed. But you have to use our promo code DOOMS. DOOMS. That's right. Play a real money game for free just for using my promo code DOOMS on your first deposit on draft.com. Just search draft in the App Store or go to draft.com and come play for free with the promo code DOOMS. Ed, it has been quite a day for us here. So many, and as happens with this team in this NFL right now, I mean, there's enough that happened in this game that could have kept us busy for an hour and a half to 2 hours. We did an hour podcast, maybe a little over an hour, and we could still do more.
Once we edit you, though, I think it'll be come in around 45 minutes.
I think there's a lot we could shave off some of your explanations, sir. But we'll tighten this thing up.
Do so at your own peril.
And exactly. And we'll have our bye week investigation. I'm very
You're not
excited.
going on hiatus again?
The hiatus. I think the hiatus. History has been kind to the hiatus. I don't really understand how that is, but it hasn't hurt us as much as you and Frito thought it would. It hurts y'all's pocketbooks.
If it hurts us at all, we shouldn't be doing it.
Maybe that's about
We're
it.
operating on a thin line here.
That's true. Let's not talk about all this pull back the curtain stuff. All right. It is doomsday, and it is a Cowboys record at 2-3. Ed, one final thought from you on as they head into this bye week, and you see the Eagles sprint out to a 4-1 record. On the panic meter, where should Cowboys fans be? You're a man of reason, and you sometimes can look at the schedule and go, hey, there's a way to climb back in this thing. All hope is not lost. Where should Cowboys fans be right now as the Cowboys sit here at 2-3?
I think they can still run down the Eagles. I mean, they have done it before in recent years, and they're not hopelessly out of it by any means. It's still early in the season. But yesterday, this loss to Green Bay is troubling on a lot of levels, one of which we didn't mention is, they really did kind of adhere to their formula for winning. They ran the football for 116 yards from Ezekiel Elliott. They won time of possession by 10 minutes, and yet they don't get any turnovers. They lose the turnover battle. The defense can't get a stop when they need one, and so they go into this bye week having surrendered 132 points. That's the most in the NFC. Only 3 teams in the NFL have given up more points so far than the Cowboys. So to have lost 2 games at home when you've had double-digit fourth-quarter leads and you've scored more than 30 points, that's a very disturbing thing that we didn't see happen to this team last year or the year before or 2 years before when they won 12 games and were a legitimate Super Bowl contender.
Cowboys have, to me, an early season defensive MVP candidate, and I'm not talking about DeMarcus Lawrence. I think we have seen how much trouble is caused when Sean Lee's out of this lineup. And does he prevent that Aaron Rodgers thing? I don't know. I don't know if it would have been any different. Aaron Rodgers is great no matter who's on the opposing side. I'll just say Jalen Smith, who we love his story, and we like Jalen a lot, he's been put in a situation where there's too much on his plate right now. He's not ready for this, and in fact, he's having to chase down. He's just not all the way back.
Well,
he's not even close to it.
It was just a matter of time before opponents began to focus on him and exploiting his limitations, and we've now seen that 2 weeks in a row. Can he come in and play against the run on first and second down when all the linebackers are healthy, or does he virtually disappear from the defensive game plan? I think there's every possibility that when Sean Lee's healthy and Anthony Hitchens is back and playing like he did yesterday, that we're not going to see very much of Jalen Smith the rest of this season unless there's an injury.
All right, and there it is. Another outstanding to have Ed back in studio, the award-winning reporter that he is, and like to get him back in here, like to see him more often. Appreciate everybody. Mark Frito Friedman, of course, who's been a part of this. Want to remind everybody, just go to Apple Podcasts, sign up for free. You can subscribe for free. Tell a friend about us as we continue to grow. Once again, Ed having Brett Favre last week, and that was one of the common themes as I walked around yesterday, running into folks on the way into the game out in the parking lot. My gosh, Favre was great. Favre was awesome. And so that one continues to resonate with folks. And Ed, great job getting Brett Favre lined up. Hope he had a good time. I don't know if you've talked to Brett since then, but it seemed like you asked him for 15 minutes of his time. I think he gave us about 45 to 50 minutes.
That's what always happens with Favre. Yeah. And I thought the funny thing was at the end of the week, I had a couple of Twitter responses from people who said, because I said, hey, this is our greatest get, is getting Brett Favre on the week the Cowboys play the Packers. And people objected and said, oh, no, getting Randy Galloway was better. And I responded, well, you can say that you like Galloway's performance on the show better, but Galloway is not a bigger get than a Hall of Fame quarterback who started more consecutive games than any quarterback in NFL history and is in the Hall of Fame and is a Super Bowl winner. That's preposterous.
Yeah, good luck trying to convince people out in Grand Prairie and Aledo and all the burger places where Randy shows up that. Thanks for everybody who's been a part of this one. Good night from Dallas, Texas.
Lights are shining, stockings have been hung. You're praying for your daughter, lighting candles for your son. They're living in the city now, you don't see them anymore. This year will not be like the ones before. And the streets are all but empty, the bars have all shut down, and it's hard to find a friend inside this godforsaken town.
Hey, it's Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light.
On today's podcast, Record Store Day founder Carrie Colleton is joining us to discuss the April 20th RSD special releases.
Plus, we'll talk live with our audience, the Sound Up Pod Squad, and find out who still listens to vinyl. And some updates from the Beatles universe.
Oh, good. Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters. Get it on Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.